Dear friends, good morning to all. Today we are going to learn the points or the remaining points of hydrological process in watershed. In the previous lecture, we have covered three processes, that is rainfall, interception and infiltration. So today we are going to see the process, that is evaporation, evapotranspiration, surface runoff, groundwater flow and water budget. So these total 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 processes are included in the hydrological process of any watershed. So let us see one by one the processes included in the hydrological process in watershed. So this is the fourth process, that is evaporation, the process by which water changes from liquid to a gas or a vapor. As you know that water is in the liquid form, and due to the temperature it get converted into the gas, or it get converted into the moisture or vapor. That process is nothing but the evaporation. Means whenever water get changed from liquid form to gaseous form, that process is called as evaporation. Loss of water in the form of vapor from soil, snow, lake, streams, reservoirs, seas and depressions to the atmosphere due to energy of the sun is called evaporation. The main thing over here is that water can be converted from any portion. It may be convert or it may be changed its form from soil, snow, lake, streams or reservoirs, seas, depressions, canals even, so springs even. So wherever water is there on the surface of the earth or in the watershed, that get changed into the gaseous form or vapor form, that process is called as evaporation. And the main thing over here is there is a necessity of energy, and that energy is provided through the sun or by the sun, and that is temperature. Temperature is first and foremost important thing to start the evaporation process. So here is the diagrammatic presentation of the evaporation process. Evaporation from water surface, as I have already explained that it can start from any portion. So this is the water surface, and that water surface starts to get evaporate in the atmosphere. The next one is transpiration from vegetation. We have to see what exactly the transpiration means, but it can means whenever trees or plants get water through the soil by their roots, then whenever it gets stored in the plants, at that time simultaneously the process of transpiration started. Means what? Whenever there is a temperature or the sun rays fall on the trees or fall on the leaves, that start to get evaporate through the process of transpiration. Evaporation from the soil, the portion of soil also have some amount of water, that is we can say it as a humidity of the water or moisture of the water, that also evaporate by the temperature or by the process of evaporation. Evaporation from the reservoir, whatever the reservoirs are there, they can that process or that can be evaporate from the to the atmosphere. Surface outflow is there. And the last one is evaporation from the ocean. Oceans are the huge areas wherever there is a water, and that part or that oceans also get evaporate, or water of the ocean also get evaporate with the help of temperature. So evaporation, in the simple words, evaporation is nothing but to change the liquid form and it get change into the gaseous form. So that is very simple process, and we know about the process of evaporation that occurs in the watershed. So next is factors affecting the evaporation. So there are various factors which affect the process of overall process of evaporation, how these factors affect on the evaporation process, we have to see. First one is temperature. As I have already explained that temperature is the first and foremost factor which is very important so far the evaporation process is concerned. And so temperature is the most important. Wherever temperature is more, obviously there is a more evaporation. Wherever there is a less temperature, obviously there is a less amount of less process of or low process of evaporation. If we think about the world, then we know that on the equatorial region or in the equatorial region there is a high temperature, that's why evaporation process is more, while as in the tundra region or in the polar zone there is a low temperature, that's why there is a low process or less process of evaporation. Height, the next factor is height. As you know that as we go higher and higher, the temperature get decreases, and there is a inversely proportional proportion of height and temperature, that as we go higher temperature get decreases, and that's why the overall process also gets decreases due to the less temperature. Location is also important factor. If we are on the equator, and so that there is a more temperature, and that's why the place which is located on the equator or nearby the equator, then there is a high process or more process of evaporation, while as we go out away from the equator, then there is a low process of evaporation. Season is also there is a direct relationship in between the season and the temperature. In a rainy season there is a temperature as well as cold, so there is moderate evaporation, while as in the winter season there is a less temperature, that's why there is a low process of evaporation, while as in the summer season there is a high temperature, and that's why we found more amount of process of evaporation. Wind direction, from which direction the wind blows, that also determines the overall process of evaporation. Suppose the winds are blowing from the desert area, which brings a high temperature wind, or the temperature overall temperature of that particular wind is obviously more, and that's why they affect on the overall process, and evaporation occurs more. And if they are coming from the cold region, their temperature is less, and that's why there is a low evaporation process. Wind velocity, how much is the wind velocity, that also determines the overall process of evaporation. If the winds blows very faster, and the process of evaporation occurs over there, that is again faster, there is a direct relationship. And wind blows very slowly and smoothly, then the overall process is less. Exposure, there is again direct relation, how much area is exposed to the sun rays, that determines the overall evaporation process. Because as we know that our earth is covered by the trees, plants and vegetation, and that's why wherever there is a forest area or the vegetative area, then that part is less exposed to the sun rays, and that's why the process of evaporation occurs less. While as in the deserts or the bare land or the barren land, what we can say, that the area which is very exposing to the sun rays, that area have more evaporation. Atmospheric pressure, as we go higher and higher, total amount of air get decreased, and that's why overall atmospheric pressure also get decreased, which affect on the evaporation process. And as we know, if there is no atmospheric pressure or low atmospheric pressure, then there is less evaporation. Size of area also determines the overall evaporation. If the area is more, which receives same amount of sun rays or same amount of temperature, then there is less evaporation, while as less area and the temperature is same as per as in the large area, then there is a more evaporation. Quality of waters, salt, if salt is there which absorbs more heat, that's why there is a more evaporation. The very typical example of the same is that you know that the Dead Sea receives more sun rays because or more the water of the Red Sea get evaporated more because the overall amount of the salt is more, and that's why there is a more evaporation. Because salt, as the salt increases, it absorbs more sun rays and which helps to the process of evaporation. Surface, how much or how that surface is, whether it is land, whether it is water, whether it is snow. If it is land, then there is more evaporation, while as if there is a water, and water, as you know that water is not static, that is a mobile thing or that is moving, and that's why overall temperature is not constantly or continuously absorbed by the water, and that's why most of the amount get radiated in the atmosphere, and that's why the overall amount of evaporation get decreased. Snow is also very important. So as you know that snow is a transparent and it reflects the energy, and evaporation process means whatever the sun rays fall on the snow, that is very in the less amount which get absorbed, and that's why the process of evaporation get reduced. Vegetation cover, there is a direct relationship. We have already covered it in the in the previous point, that is vegetation cover is direct related to the overall process of evaporation. In the tundra in the desert area there is a less vegetative area, that's why the sun rays directly fall on the surface of the earth and there is more amount of evaporation or more favorable condition to get evaporate, whereas in the forest area vegetative cover is more, that's why there is less amount of evaporation. So these all factors directly and indirectly affect on the process of evaporation, so these factors are very important. The next point is evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration is is very simple process. Evapotranspiration is the process by which water leaves the living plant body and enters the atmosphere vapor. It gets evaporated through stomata of the leaves. As in the previous slide, I have explained that how water stored the plants stored the water in the stems and plants and in the overall body of the plants. So at the due to the temperature, again it get evaporate. Whatever the amount of water in the leaves, whatever the amount of the water in that stem, that get evaporate, and particularly through the stomata. Stomata means stomata are the small holes on the leaves which helps to plant to breathe. Actually that is a breathing holes for the plants. Actually this is the nose of the plants, and that through that stomata water get released, and that process is called as evapotranspiration. So how this evapotranspiration is important and how many factors affect on the evapotranspiration process, we have to see. The important thing over here is that if the leaves are leaves are large, then the stomatas are more, then they reduces more water, or they what we can say, they release more amount of vapor in the atmosphere. And if the leaves are less in the size, or if the leaves are small, then the stomatas are again small, and it reduces releases less amount of vapor in the atmosphere. Very typical example of the same is that whenever we see the plants in the desert, that is called as xerophytes. That xerophytes have small leaves, and that small leaves have small stomata, and that small stomata releases less amount of vapor, and thus the process of evapotranspiration get controlled. The size of the leaf determines the overall process of the evapotranspiration. At the same time, temperature also determines, but the main thing is that evapotranspiration is nothing but the release of vapor through the plants. That is a very simple process. Next is surface runoff. The runoff is defined as that part of precipitation of the watershed which is not evapotranspirated. Some part of precipitation goes to the atmosphere by way of evaporation and evapotranspiration. The remaining part goes to the stream or river as a surface water. Surface runoff is whenever rainfall occurs, at the same time temperature also start to do the work of evaporation. Means what? They do not wait for to start the process of evaporation. Means temperature simultaneously starts the process of evaporation, and that's why whenever there is a rainfall, the process of evaporation started. Here there is a evapotranspiration, and remaining remaining water gets stored somewhere. Remaining part goes to stream or river as a surface water, and that whatever the water meets to the reservoir or streams or river, that is called as surface runoff. Again, there are various factors which affect on the surface runoff. First one is type of precipitation. Which type of precipitation occurs? Whether there is a orographic rainfall, whether there is a frontal rainfall, whether there is a cyclonic rainfall or any more. So which type of precipitation is there, that determines the surface runoff. Intensity of precipitation means how intense it occurs, how intensely it occurs, that also determines the surface runoff. If heavy rainfall is there, then surface runoff is more. If there is a drizzle only, if there is a very small amount of water or small amount of precipitation, means only droplets are there, then at that time surface runoff is less. Duration of precipitation, how much duration or how much period of the precipitation occurs over there in a particular area, that also determines. For a longer period, if the rainfall occurs in a region, then there is a more surface runoff, and for a short period or for a moment only, then there is a less runoff. Type of soil. As you know that there is a different characteristics of the soil. Some soil absorbs too much water, while as some type of soil do not have the capacity to absorb the water. A very simple example of the same is, if the black cotton soil is there which absorbs more amount of water, then the surface runoff is less, while as in a barren land or in a rocky region or in a very what we can say hardened rock type, hardened soil, then it do not absorb the water, and that's why surface runoff is more. Vegetation is also very important. As you know that the trees and plants is a barrier in the surface runoff. They do not allow to go ahead to the water, and they absorb the water. They become an obstacle in the path of the surface runoff, and thus surface runoff is less in the vegetative area. Shape. If the shape is elongated, then the water flows very faster, and if the slope is again according to that shape, that is also important. Shape also important. So far the surface runoff is important. Surface runoff is considered. Elevation, height. or the overall height of the area also important. If the steep slope is there, if the more height is there, then water flows easily, while as if in the plain area, then there is less runoff. Slope, elevation and slope are so correlated. If slope is steep, the water flows easily, while as in the slope is gentle, or if there is a zero slope, then water flows steadily. Orientation of the watershed, in which direction that watershed lies, that also important in the surface runoff. And if the orientation of the watershed is north south, in this direction likewise north south, and slope is east west, then there is a problem in the surface runoff. Drainage network, means how much streams meets to the main channel. If the more number of streams are meeting to the main channel, then there is a less or slow surface runoff, or less amount of surface runoff, while as there is a less number of streams to the meeting to the main channel, then there is less runoff, more runoff. Pool, ponds, lakes, check dams, groundwater storage also determines. Suppose there is a rainfall and ponds are there in the path of the stream or path of the channel. Lakes, if lake is there, check dam is there, groundwater is there, groundwater storage capacity is there, then it get merged into the ponds, lakes and check dams. That's why it can't go ahead. So there is a problem in the surface runoff. So these are various points which affect on the overall surface runoff. Next is groundwater flow. The amount of water available below the surface of the earth is known as groundwater, and the science of its distribution and movement is as groundwater flow. We know groundwater, but what exactly the groundwater flow? The groundwater flow is nothing but the movement of groundwater. Means there are various channels, or there are various gaps, crevices, holes in the under the ground, and through that holes, cracks, crevices, water flows from one part to the another. That is called as groundwater flow. A large part of precipitation and water from streams and lakes joins the groundwater storage by way of infiltration and the percolation. Thus, there exists a direct relationship between surface water runoff and subsurface and groundwater flow. In the infiltration process, we have seen that how water get infiltrated. Although the runoff is there, but wherever there is a gap and crack and crevices, through that gaps, water get infiltrated into the ground, under the ground, and again whenever it reaches to the under the ground, wherever there is a gaps and cracks, crevices, or the channels or the vacuums, through that vacuum water start to flow. And thus the groundwater flow is one process through which we can get idea about the overall groundwater flow or overall groundwater level. So groundwater flow is also important aspect so far hydrologic process is concerned. And the last is water budget. A water budget is a water management tool used to estimate the amount of water landscape will require. How much amount of water we require in that particular watershed. Whenever we come to know that number or that amount, then that is called as water budget. It can be calculated for a single irrigation event on a weekly or a monthly basis or even annually. Suppose farmers required water for one crop for one season, then how much amount of water they require? Whenever we calculate that, that is called as irrigation event. And if we have to provide water to the farmers, on which basis or weekly, on which rotation, on which interval that determines the weekly, monthly, and annual basis, and that also that can be calculated in the water budget. The water budget takes into account reference evapotranspiration data, plant types, purpose and functionality of the landscape, irrigated landscape area, irrigation efficiency, water quality, and rainfall. These all things take into consideration whenever we have to do the water budget. How much rainfall occurs everywhere, but how much part or how much amount of the rainfall or the water get evapotranspirated through that area, how much or which type of plants are there, whether they are deciduous, whether they are xerophytes, whether they are another any type. So that also determines purpose of functionality of the landscape. For what purpose we are using that water, for the entertainment, for the domestic purpose, for the industrial purpose, and many more. Irrigated landscape area, how much area is irrigated in the particular watershed. Irrigation efficiency, what is the efficiency of the particular area, particularly of the irrigation. And water quality as well as rainfall also determines the water budget. So water budget is nothing but the tool to estimate the amount of water a landscape will require, how much amount of water required for that particular area in a week or in a month or in a year. That is nothing but the water budget. So this is all about the hydrologic processes include into the watershed. So I hope you have understand all the things, and if you have any query, you can contact me, or you can send me a message. So today we stop here. Thank you very much.